Hello, today is Friday, September 29th, 2017. I'm Sharon Dingus and I'm here to share with you another ray of light. I'm coming to you from Acres for Art and Enlightenment, home of awakeninglight.net and Red Dog Creations Art Studio. So today's ray of light explores the thought that giggling and uncontrollable silly laughter is actually what happens when your soul is tickled. So there are belly laughs, there are little bitty giggles, there are polite laughs, there are embarrassed laughs, there are things like that. Tension laughs, some people laugh when they're stressed. But giggling, uncontrollable giggling. And it's often one of those situations, and I think anyone who's watching this has certainly been there at least once, if not many times. But giggling is when often it's one of those things where you say, you know, you really had to be there. Because it's oftentimes so situational. It can come from the most absurd situations, like in this card spread. If you take a look at I think it's the Eight of Cups, and they're all broken. Well, some would say, oh my gosh, how horrible. But it might end up being the silliest situation that happened, this series of events that happened, that led to these wine glasses being just absolutely shattered. And by being lighthearted and seeing the humor in the entire situation, what could have been oh my gosh, this is horrible, turned into a moment that will never be forgotten because you either alone laughed or giggled so hard, you and your soul, or you shared that with one or more other people. And this topic came to me because this morning I woke up and something happened, and I'm laying in bed and the window was open. So if any neighbors were walking past, they're like, oh, that's that loony girl again. But I started giggling and giggling, and I could not stop giggling. And a giggle is, it's at a different level. It's higher up oftentimes. And you just can't stop. And tears were flowing down my cheeks, and I bet it felt as if it took several minutes to get my composure back. Not that I was looking forward to bringing it back. It's just all of a sudden before I could actually do anything. And then about 10 minutes later, Maya and I went out for a walk, Miss Mighty Maya, and I see this thing scurrying across a 4-lane road. And it wasn't busy, thank goodness, because it was about 6 this morning. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's a young raccoon. Well, I was raised with Mom. We had all sorts of weird animals, but on 2 separate occasions, we had a young raccoon. So rescued from situations when they were several months old, and then we kept them over the summer and then let them go. And no, Maya, that's not the raccoon outside. But I thought that was interesting. And then Maya and I were walking because the sun was up. And I know raccoons can be in urban areas or suburban areas. So we kept walking, and I saw that it went into the landscaped area, and I thought there's no way it's going to cross. There's a nice wrought iron fence, very decorative and functional, between the apartment complex and the 4-lane road. So I thought, okay, it's over there somewhere. I'm just going to remain aware of the fact there's a raccoon in there. As much as I like raccoons, and I think they are so silly, they can be rabid, and they can also go after dogs. So I thought, well, I don't want to put Maya in a situation that would not be healthy for her or for the raccoon, because the raccoon is clearly very joyful. It was coming across the road. Well, all of a sudden, I'm walking up, and we were within 4 feet of a tree. This raccoon scampered out and climbed up to eye level in the tree, and just sat there and looked at me. Well, then I started giggling again because it reminded me of what the circumstances were of the situation that got me giggling this morning. And I thought, seriously? Seriously, there's a raccoon. It's daylight out. It came scampering over. I have never seen a raccoon here. And Maya and I walk at all hours, not all hours, but in the dark, we walk all over the place. Have never seen a raccoon here. And here I am, eyeball to raccoon mask level, and it just sat there and looked at me, and it was the silliest thing. So I looked up Raccoon Spirit guy just for the fun of it. But anyhow, so when I look at this tarot spread, I think one of the reasons we all love to giggle is because we are tickling our soul. Giggling is tickling our soul. Uncontrollable laughter hits us in a different way. A couple of examples. One are all these silly animal videos, right? And if you look at that Daughter of Swords at the bottom, how many times have you giggled while watching a bird video? And some of the cockatoos, right? They're woohoo, they get their thing up and they get just silly. And we get silly watching them oftentimes, or kittens or puppies or whatever that is. And laughter, giggling, is a stress release. Even if we don't think we need stress release, it still releases stress. It releases those good feeling, those feel-good hormones. It is just a wonderful sensation. And I think one of the funniest ones to me is on the internet. There is a video, and it's several years old. In fact, it's probably been older by now, about Helium Beer. And I still believe it's got to be a spoof, but if someone ever sells Helium Beer, I want some. And it's these two German guys. And having been very fluent in German at a certain point in my life, and my paternal grandfather came over from Germany in his 20s, and I know how silly he was and how silly he and his brothers were. That man loved to laugh, and I don't remember because he was too young, but I suspect he did a lot of silly giggling. So when I looked and I watched that video several times, and I get tears running down my face sometimes watching these two German guys, because Germans, people think it's sometimes a rough cult. No, it's not. Germans are very, very silly. They're very slapstick. They love to giggle. And watching these two guys have their sips of helium beer and giggling in their high helium voices. If you haven't seen it, you go to the YouTube video and watch Helium Beer. And so then, just to close this out, a funny thing that my mother and I, and my sister, when she's with us as well, we still laugh about, is when my late stepfather passed away in 2006. And certainly when you lose someone, there's a lot of sadness. But if you step back and again can see the humor in circumstances, it can help. So we're getting ready for the funeral. We're in the church, and the priest called all of the family in. So there were a bunch of us loaded into the chapel, which is right next to the church. And I don't remember what it was we were talking about. I suspect we were recounting the deer hunting situation, which was another silly thing we still giggle about. But whatever it was, we all began giggling and laughing uncontrollably, to the point of just, some might say, hysteria, right? But we could not stop laughing. And it's a small church, wooden church. And the people out waiting for the service to start, the non-family members, had come up to some of us after the service like, what was going on in there? So we came out, and rather than crying uncontrollably, we were still giggling as we went into the service, which was entirely appropriate because Hank/Henry, that's the kind of guy he was. Loved to giggle, loved to laugh, loved to do absolutely absurd things to make you just laugh. So I leave you today with the question of, so when was the last time you tickled your soul? Thank you for taking the time to watch. I send you blessings, love, and light as you giggle your way through today.